Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, Daniel.
And Aaron.
Aaron, we've got where we should have started, Group A today. It's quite an interesting group by the looks of it, and one of the teams that I'll be supporting and cheering on, the team I think favourite to finish bottom of this group, Club Brugge, is where we are going to start with this one. They've endeared us on this podcast. Are you still enjoying the Club Brugge content?
I am. I think we were able to identify a lot of their good players, and they performed quite well last year. So that's one of the highlights of the podcast last season, was getting players like Vanaken and people like that. De Ketelaere, obviously, for match day one. Yeah, identifying players like that. So hopefully we can do it again, and that Bruges can cause a few upsets in this group.
100%. They've had a bit of a bizarre start to the season, to be honest. They have obviously sold Dennis Bonaventure, Emmanuel, as we all know, now plays for Watford. They have brought in Wesley, Aston Villa Wesley, up front, although he hasn't had a sniff yet. I don't know whether he's injured or not, but he hasn't had a sniff in that first team. They won the first game 3-2, lost the second game 6-1. That's concerning. And then changed their formation from a 5-3-2 to a 4-3-3 in order to play this weekend. They played last night. We are recording this on Saturday afternoon, so Friday night they played. They won 3-0, but I think they were only 1-0 up when the opposition got a man sent off. So they were down to 10 men, which is really annoying for us because it doesn't allow us to fully engage with what might have been an 11-a-side game. Mignolet is the goalkeeper. Last night, I'll go with that team that played. Mata played right back. Hendry and Unsoki played centre-backs. Sabal played left-back. Vorma, Balanta and Vanaken played as the three in midfield. Sauer played right wing, Lang played left wing, and Christian de Ketelaere, our boy, played as the lone striker. It has been a little bit conflicting, depending on what website you use, because some websites are saying that they played a 4-4-2 with de Ketelaere and Lang as the two forwards. Either way, they're both midfielders on the game. They're both playing in attacking positions. In terms of players that played in the opening two games that didn't play last night, Michel played both games. And I think that is probably about... Alvarez, he played both games as well. So I'm not sure entirely why they got brought out. Obviously, got beat 6-1. And I think, like all teams, we are seeing a bit of a trend from the Euros where they have a certain set 11 for the opening two games and they completely change it up for 3, 4, 5. I appreciate these have only played 3 games. But I don't see any reason really why you would go for Bruges defenders. I'd say they're a total avoid. It's just some stats. Mata got an assist last night. Vanaken has 2 goals and an assist in his 3 games. Vorma has 2 assists. Lang has 2 goals and an assist. 2 of those came last night. And de Ketelaere has 1 goal in that opening game. So, Aaron, what are you making of Club Brugge?
The group draw has absolutely kind of ruined a lot of the players, and I think rightly so. A couple of their players got price rises due to their performances last year, but I think some players, maybe it was too much of a price rise as well, so it also makes it difficult. If it was like, for example, if Bruges got put into Ajax's group, it would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
And potentially you would have took a gamble at a few of them. But with the first few games, it's really difficult to see how they might get the odd goal, but to see them actually put in a strong performance, it's going to be difficult for them, really difficult. And I really hope that they do cause a few upsets, cause a few matches of drama in this group. Just because I don't want the money to determine who goes through, but I know it will.
With this group, I think it will.
Yeah, unfortunately, especially when the other the three teams, money is a big topic with them. So yeah. In terms of their players, though, obviously Vanaken, he was probably going to be the go-to for me, anyways. But for 7 million, it's just too much. I don't even know how much he was last year, but he definitely wasn't that high.
I think if I remember correctly, he was 7, and I think
Right.
Vorma was 5.5 and De Ketelaere was 4.5.
Yeah, he was 4.5.
Vanaken might have been 6. No, yeah, because I think with him being the pen taker, he might have been 6.5, but I think there might be a tiny little rise. Vorma's had a little rise, and De Ketelaere's had a relatively big 1 to 6.
Yeah, which I think was justified, but it's quite nice that even last year, he played up front a little bit, and he's still classed as a midfielder this year as well, which is ridiculous. Nice. Or he's in that defensive midfield price point. So it's just the group, though. He would have been really good to pick again.
I think the important information that I've looked at is Bruges last year. They had a good group. Lazio, who were fairly open at times. Dortmund, a far better team than Bruges, but again, can be left fairly open. And Zenit, who are pretty naff. And with those fixtures, and obviously on a 4.5 punt, it's absolutely fine. Doesn't matter who they're playing. If De Ketelaere was 4.5 million, I wouldn't care who he's playing. Mm-hmm. I'd still give him a pop. Why not? He can nick a goal. Obviously, like we said, the 6, the 7, and Lang, 6.5 million midfielder. Again, he's right in that mix. But against Dortmund last year, who I think aren't as good as PSG or Man City, I think that's fair to say. I don't think they were as good as them last year. I don't think they were as good as them this year. Dortmund turned these up over 3-0 both times. So if you're looking at the standard of the group, this is the right group, isn't it? Man City, PSG. And then obviously they've got Leipzig. I think Leipzig obviously finished higher than Dortmund. I think Dortmund are a little bit more explosive. So I don't think Leipzig will win 3-0 against Bruges. But I also think Leipzig are going to win because Leipzig are technically a better team than Dortmund. Obviously, they don't have a player like Haaland up front, but from back to front, they have, like, arguably, I don't know about individual better players. And Leipzig, we're about to discuss, haven't had the best start of the league. It's been very up and down. They've got a couple of injuries. But I still just think Bruges aren't going to get anything from this group. And I don't want to be paying 6-7 millions for players that might get 1 goal in 6 games. Yeah, a couple of players that I want to mention, De Kuiper and Van den Keebus. They don't play. People have them selected in their teams currently from what I saw when I was doing my research. If you have either of those players, get rid of them. Look at our previews for other groups. There are loads of 4.5 million defenders that you can choose. Absolutely loads. And that will play. And aren't in a heinous group playing against De Bruyne, Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want any of these defenders in a month?
I think sometimes we forget that, like, we'll get so invested in the ball recovery points that we almost forget that goals conceded will take them points away easily as hard as what they were gained. So will Paris Saint-Germain and Man City score more than 3 or 4 passes? Because that would mean that they have to get 6 ball recovery points or more in order to get 1 point if they lose 4-0. Like, so they would come away from a 4-0 win with 3 points. And that means they've done 7 ball recoveries. It's probably better to get someone else around the same price point who's probably in a bit more of a secure defense and even a more even group. Because I can see Man City getting a 5-0. They love their 5-0s, Man City.
Yeah.
So I could see that happening. Paris Saint-Germain, who knows? The sky's the limit with them three up front. So
Do they have PSG first game?
yes, in
Yeah,
Bruges.
I don't think it matters. If they can concede 6 goals in the Belgian league, that's frightening.
Mm-hmm. The only
Let's
thing I
move on.
hope is that they get complacent and
Well,
they,
PSG.
yeah, like if Neymar turns from pumping up his stats and go instead focuses more on dribbling, means Neymar could get hurt.
A horrible thing to say. No, I don't want them to stop. I've got Hakimi in my team, so I obviously don't want
Hopefully
them to
the
get
sorry.
lackadaisical and concede goals. Obviously, I'd love Bruges to get through. I'll be supporting Bruges for all of these games, regardless. But if PSG go 3-0 up, 2-0 up, I'm going to be like, okay, just protect Hakimi. That's all I want. I don't even know if Neymar will be playing. Let's move on to Man City. They've obviously had a couple of transfers out. They've had obviously Aguero's moved to Barcelona, and it's not a transfer, but Mendy is suspended, and I think his trial's been set for January. So let's hope that all gets sorted out quickly and efficiently. And obviously they bought Jack Grealish for 100 million. Lost the first game of the season 1-0. They also lost the curtain raiser, the Charity Shield 1-0. So it wasn't a good start. They then turned that around with 2 5-0 wins. They are playing this afternoon. So just in terms of lineup, I do have a lineup for them for today, which most people can go and have a little look at. But I'm just going to bring that up now, just so I can compare it to how they've set up. So they have been playing 4-3-3. Pep loves it. Edison is the goalkeeper. He's playing again today. Cancelo played the first game at right back with Mendy at left back, but Cancelo is now left back. He's played every game there. He's playing today there, and Walker has played every game since then at right back, including today as well. Diaz and Laporte every game, including today. Centre backs, Diaz with 1 assist, Laporte has a goal as well. In midfield, Gundogan, Rodri, and Bernardo Silva. Rodri's played the last 2, got a goal as well. Gundogan's played all 3. He's Pep's golden boy, and we on this podcast love Gundogan. He's definitely in my thoughts for his price range when you consider he's knocking around the same prices as the likes of Vanaken. Bernardo Silva has played the last 2 games in midfield. There was some doubts about his future, but that seems to be put to bed. Gabriel Azuz playing right wing now. Mahrez played their first game. Jesus has played every game since. He's playing today, and he's got a goal and 3 assists. So that's pretty interesting. But he is a forward on the game, so it'd be interesting if he's a midfielder next year. Torres, however, is a midfielder on the game. He is playing up front today. He's played up front every game of the season. He's got 2 goals and an assist so far. And finally, Sterling played the first game on the left, but Grealish has played there since. Grealish is starting today at left wing. He has a goal and an assist. Generally, sort of coming off the bench has been Mahrez and Sterling, both chipping in with goals. Mahrez also has an assist. So I think it's impossible to ever talk about Pep Guardiola's system. I think for the group stages, it's going to be 4-3-3. He usually changes it in the knockouts for a tough team to try and be too clever. It's the personnel that's the issue. Zinchenko might play because it's Pep. You don't know whether Walker or Cancelo will play at right back. If Zinchenko does play left back, even if he might not, is John Stones going to come in? We think Diaz is going to be nailed. Gundogan, I think, is the mainstay in that midfield. Fernandinho could come in for Rodri. You'd think Sterling and Mahrez would play, but I just don't know, Aaron. What are your thoughts on Man City?
I went and checked when you were reading out the lineup, and that's the same lineup as both 5-0 wins that they've had recently. So
Yep.
that's 3 games in a row where he's had an unchanged starting 11, which we like this trend, Pep. You should do it more often. Especially if it keeps getting you 5-0 wins. Why
Yeah,
change stuff?
don't fix something that isn't broken.
Yeah, but De Bruyne being back on the bench is what interests me. Pep's not going to rush him back, but maybe not for match day 1, but moving forward. I know that last season when both Jesus and Aguero weren't playing, Foden or De Bruyne were the false 9. I think he's pretty set on Ferran Torres being the striker, which is great for his price point, if that's the case. But De Bruyne could easily come in and be the false 9 as well, which is difficult as well. So it's a lot of guesswork, but in terms of 3 starting 11s in a row the same, I think that the team on Tuesday or Wednesday will be the same as this one. Very close, I think. I think it'll be 1 or 2 changes, depending on who looks tired or who plays 90 minutes. I think the substitutes from today's game will be very interesting. If we see people get brought off at around 60, 70 minutes, I think you can pretty much, they're more likely to start.
Interesting. That is something to keep an eye out on. I think the substitutes. The most expensive midfielder in the game, Kevin De Bruyne, plays for Man City, 11 million. I don't know if he's still in my team. I had him in my team as a placeholder, but I think we've already discussed. I'm probably going to take him out to put Ronaldo in, or Messi against Bruges, one of the two. And it's obviously just he's been injured. We don't know quite when he's back. Might take a game or two to just sort of feel his way around. For me, he is the best midfielder on the game when he is fit, him and Salah. But the group isn't the easiest. I think he'll do all right against Leipzig. He's played in Germany, did very, very well for Wolfsburg, but obviously got his move to Man City for, I think it was like 56 million or something, worth every penny. And he's borderline fixed proof. He did well against PSG in the knockouts last year. So I think it doesn't really matter who he plays, except for maybe Man United. I think that's a bit of a bogey team for Pep's Man City. They tend to beat them quite a bit. So yeah, I think KDB at 11 million is just too much. Does that tempt you at all?
Not for match day 1. I think that's going to be someone maybe for Limitless. If you're looking to Limitless in either match day 3 or 4, Brugge, Man City. And so potentially bringing him in for that. But in terms of, and also I don't know if the 19th of October is a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but if it's the Tuesday, they're the early kickoff as well. So you'll get the starting 11. I'll just check real quick.
Yeah,
it's the Tuesday. So
match day 3, did you see?
Yeah, match day 3, Man City Bruges, they're the early kickoff. You'll get the Man City starting 11. So
that's my Limitless. That's our Limitless match day 3. It was either going to be match day 3 or match day 5, just looking at the fixtures. I can't ask for more than that.
Yeah, so De Bruyne probably for then. In the meantime, Leipzig, PSG, there's probably, I think Salah's first 2 games are a bit easier. So potentially could do a switch from Salah to De Bruyne halfway through the group.
I think the 2 midfielders that people will be arguing over is going to be Torres and Gundogan. Torres 7.5, Gundogan at 7. Which one of those takes your fancy more, and why?
I've got Torres in my draft at the minute. I've been quite high on Torres all season. Like FPL, I got him in FPL draft. He was one of my first few picks. Well, I managed to get him mid draft, but quite high on him. He was one of my priorities to try and get. And in Champions League as well, just because even though he didn't do even though he plays as a winger for Spain, I just think that because he has played there last season and Gabriel Jesus can be very, very hot and cold, I think that when I heard that Harry Kane wasn't going to Man City, Torres was straight into my team. But he's played a lot of minutes for Spain over the international break. I think he's played the full 90s for Pep recently. So when it comes to Brugge, I could see him potentially getting subbed off first, then Gundogan. I think Gundogan is a bit more trusted in the midfield. So if you're looking for maybe a safer floor, Gundogan's probably the safer floor, but higher ceiling, I would say, is Torres.
I'm not really overly keen on either of them, and the reason is I don't think they'll thrash Leipzig. I think when you look at the teams that they've been beaten by this season, Leicester 1-0, Tottenham 1-0, and the two teams that they beat 5-0 are Norwich and Arsenal. And Arsenal are poor, let's be honest. They aren't the team they used to be. They are very poor and didn't have some of the older attacking threats like a Lacazette or an Aubameyang to even occupy the Man City defence. And then obviously with Xhaka getting sent off as well. And I think it was 2-0 when he got sent off anyway. It wasn't like they were ever getting anything from the game. It wasn't like that changed the game. But it might have added to the scoreline. I think when I place Leipzig and PSG in that, where do I rank those two teams around the four that they played? And I'd say Leipzig's sort of around Leicester. In PSG's by far and away would be the best of the four. And how did Torres and Gundogan play against those, let's say Leicester and in Tottenham? I think they did all right against Tottenham. And I think they did very, very badly against Leicester. So I'm not overly keen on either of them. And might bring one of them in against Brugge, especially if you want a match day for Brugge as well. So that could be just a transfer for match day 4, see how they get on, and that's fine. But 7.5 million. Do I think Torres is going to get more points against Leipzig and PSG than Hakimi, Kimmich, or Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Yeah, that's
for a million.
What you've just said there is, because before we started recording, I was saying that this is the type of the time where you're just constantly just changing your team. And every single change that I've done, it's almost to the point where it's almost like a guarantee that Torres is leaving my first draft to make way for a better defender, so that I can have more premium defenders and bring Torres down to a defensive midfielder. Because the ball recovery points, if I can find the right defensive midfielder to come into my team, I think having, like what you've just said there, like a Kimmich or Hakimi, managing to get them into my team would be a lot more beneficial, I think, in terms of higher ceilings. Because we know with this game, the fullbacks are
insane.
So the more fullbacks I can get, the better.
Yeah. I'm going to try and preempt questions here. So Diaz, Cancelo, 6 million. Kyle Walker, 5.5. Which one of those would you go for?
I'd probably go for... Cancelo did really, really well last season in terms of ball recovery points, and I think he even didn't play the majority of the knockouts. I think Zinchenko came in later in the knockout stages.
Zinchenko came in semi-final second leg, and then because I think he came on for Cancelo as a sub, and then semi-final first leg, started in the second because he played so well, and then he played so well that he got the final, and his mistake cost him the goal. So I don't know if Pep will make that mistake again. I think Zinchenko's really good against certain levels of opposition. Then it's just when he's got to play against a certain caliber of forward, because he's not a defender.
Yeah,
he's a central midfielder. So
when it comes to that, to comparing the three, I think it just comes to, do you want the safe floor, high ceiling? So having a look at how many risks do you have in your team. If I've got loads of low floor, high ceiling type players, like a Mo Salah, for example, he's a low floor, high ceiling, I would say. He won't really track back. If I've got like a lot of them players and there's not many ball recovery points, you'd probably want to get DS just to give you a little bit of solidity that you could balance that out. If you have lots of safe options, potentially you would use Cancelo as a bit of that risk, because I think Kyle Walker is good, but I think because Cancelo can play on the left and the right, it gives him a bit more of an
advantage.
Yeah, if Zinchenko does come in, Cancelo can play on the right. Obviously he's more money, but I think over Kyle Walker or Cancelo, I'd probably choose Cancelo.
And very lastly, we're going to move on now, but Rodri, 5.5 million. I'd just say I'd probably go elsewhere. Rodri can get a goal and he's fine for ball recoveries, but he does have a legitimate rotation risk with Fernandinho. My gut says he'll be fine for, like, I think he's 100% going to play against PSG. I think they'll play the best team against PSG. Leipzig, I don't know. I generally don't know. And Brugge, I think Fernandinho will play against Brugge, genuinely. Let's move on to PSG. Otherwise, we'll be here all day.
They had a quiet transfer window.
No one in, really. Messi, whoever he is. Ramos, don't know if you've heard of him. The Genie from Aladdin, I think they've signed him. Hakimi, Mendes at left back, Donnarumma, because they don't already have a world-class goalkeeper. They have shifted a few players: Bacca, Areola, Sarabia, Florenzi. They didn't keep his loan going, obviously, because of Hakimi. And Moise Kean's loan ended. Bye, Moise. We love you. And he's back at Juve now. So their form, I've got the last 3 games. I do remember they did lose the French Cup 1-0 against Lille. But when I was looking at their team, this is what we're talking about, where it's like at the beginning of the season, we're playing some people I've never heard of. Navas has played every game so far. So if you're Donnarumma, I just wouldn't. Hakimi's played every game at right back. He's got a couple of assists already. Yes. Kera has played every game at centre back. Kimpembe played the first 2 with him. Marquinhos played the most recent one with him. And bizarrely, Diallo's played the games at left back. He has 1 assist. I do imagine at some point Mendes is going to just slot right in there. He is a left back, the new signing. Ebimbe, he played the first game. We've not seen him since, with Herrera and Gini, because they played a 4-3-3. Herrera played the next game, got a goal and assist. Verratti came in for Gini, and Idrissa Gana Gueye came in for Ebimbe. Gana Gueye got a goal, so I don't know what's up with these defensively minded midfielders banging. Although I do think Herrera is a box-to-box. Not of the school of thought that he's a holding midfielder, really. And then the most recent game, the 3 in midfield has been Gini, Idrissa Gana Gueye, and Marco Verratti again. So they've definitely rotated. I don't know what midfielders they are going to go for. I'd just say they're all in a void entirely. And I don't think they're going to get that many points anyway. The front 3 for the first game was Draxler, Icardi, and Mbappe. I think it took them 33 minutes for all of them to score. Although Mbappe's goal might have been changed to an own goal later on. He got a couple of assists. The next game, Icardi and Mbappe were up front, and Mbappe got a goal. Di Maria came on for Mbappe and scored. Headaches. And in the previous game, Di Maria, Mbappe, and Neymar were the front three. Di Maria got an assist, and Mbappe got 2 goals. So Neymar's only played 1 game. Messi, I think, only came off the bench. I'm just panicking, making sure that I'd have actually done the last game that they played. But I keep on forgetting it's international break, isn't it? I imagine in my head it's going to be Messi and Neymar playing off Mbappe up front. I think that's going to be it. Let's talk about their assets. There's bloody loads of them, Aaron. What's your initial thoughts on PSG? Oh, sorry, real quick. I didn't go through the scores. The won 4-2, 4-2, and 2-0. Just for the scores there.
I mean, it's pretty leaky goals, especially for the standard of opposition. So I don't know what that situation is that could favour teams like Brugge and stuff like that. So, but in terms of their assets, obviously Hakimi stands out massively. He's the most owned PSG player currently at the time of recording. Messi is the next highest at 30%. Mbappe, and then Neymar's a lot lower. So in terms of Mbappe's price, I think he's really interestingly priced because he's cheaper than all the others. He's $1 million cheaper than Lewandowski and 0.5 cheaper than Haaland, Ronaldo, Messi, which I just think is crazy, especially with the good form that he's been in. I think Messi's hat-trick for Argentina, I think he should be starting for Paris's game later today. So check the starting 11 for that. But yeah, obviously I'm interested to see how all of these star players perform together. I think it's just going to be very interesting. I don't want them to do well, but I think it's going to be great to watch.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think you're right. So just for people that aren't aware, Messi 11 million, Mbappe 10.5. I didn't even check Neymar's price. I absolutely refuse to have him in my team. Mr. 45 minutes. That's what he is. If we look at Messi last year, obviously played in a significantly worse team than this one. But his goals came from penalties in the group stage. And I'm not this person that Pessi and Penaldo, like, they're the two of the greatest football players that have ever lived, if not the 2 greatest. Like, have a bit of respect for them. Yes, they score a lot of pens, but they score a lot of headers. A lot of right foots, a lot of left foots. They'll score whatever goals they want. They'll score volleys, overhead kicks between them. Like, it just doesn't matter. 30 yards in the box. But obviously, if we are looking, Messi, in the Champions League last year, just an objective truth that he did score from penalties. He also won penalties himself. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see who the penalty taker is, because it can be Mbappe, Neymar, or Messi, which doesn't really endear me to any one of them.
Could even be Sergio Ramos.
Could even be Sergio Ramos, who hasn't played yet. But for those 2 price points, I do think Messi is going to be more of the creator, and I just think Mbappe is going to be gobbling goals up, genuinely. When Messi draws in 3 players and Mbappe is playing on the shoulder of the last man, in Messi, one of the best, if not the best passer of football in the world, just slides it through for him, real slinky, and he just smashes it in bottom corner. I wouldn't be looking at Neymar personally. I think Mbappe or Messi would be the ones to go for, and Mbappe at his price, I'd go for above Messi, because I think Messi's going to get the assist, and I think Mbappe is going to get the goals. Mendes, the left back, 4.5 million. Real interesting if he starts playing. He's a one to watch. And if you want a wild card early, it might be someone to bring in on wild card. I don't think he's going to be a defensive minded left back at all. So you never know. You might get Hakimi 2.0 for 2.0 million less. Ramos, a lot of people have Ramos. I don't know why he's not playing. He might start playing, but I think it's going to be a bit of a dangerous tactic to play Marquinhos and Ramos at centre backs. There's not a great deal of pace there. So if you are playing against any team with a bit of pace, I'm not sure how much they'll enjoy that. I mean, Marquinhos isn't slow by any measure, but he does benefit from having legs next to him. I think Ramos might be more of the like a Liga centre back, and they'll play. Keras played all 3 games. I don't see why he wouldn't play again. You mentioned at the beginning, obviously, they were very leaky. I've talked about on this podcast a few times this season from the group draws and our reactions, all that they were 3-0 up in these games and trying to blow leads, basically. It was constantly come back to 3-2 and then they'd sort of kick on a gear. But when you look at their team, I don't think Kera and Kimpembe are their starting centre-backs. They put Marquinhos back in there and they keep a clean sheet, and that's just not a surprise. He is an elite defender. He's comfortably world-class. I think if I was to make a best team in the world, he might be one of the 2 centre-backs in there, maybe. I know you've got Diaz, Van Dijk, but he'd be in a 26-man squad, I think. Mm-hmm. Mentioned earlier, Donnarumma, why rotation risk for 6 million is a joke. It's a laughable joke. Is there anyone else that's taking your fancy from this lot?
No, I think you've mentioned it. Just in terms of Donnarumma, obviously, just with the nature of his transfer, it was quite hidden, like the details by the English media. They didn't go into huge detail about it because we were focusing more on if Pogba was leaving and stuff like that. And Harry Kane, etc. But basically what happened was Mino Raiola, the amazing man that he is.
Oh, he's just such a giver.
He went to AC Milan, and this was before Italy won the Euros, and said, we want to make Donnarumma the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. And AC Milan said, we can't afford it. And Raiola was like, okay, we'll have this amount, which would have made him the highest paid player in Serie A. Like underneath Ronaldo.
But he's not the best player in Serie A. Like he's a very, very good goalkeeper.
So and what happened was Maldini, absolute legend, just turned around and said, we're not going to your demands. We've already got a goalkeeper ready.
Class.
And so
come on, Paolo.
Raiola was like, said, fine, I'll sell him. Like, well, we'll get him a new club. And he asked around, and nobody else. He asked around the Premier League, and nobody signed him. And he was kind of left with egg on his face because AC Milan called his bluff, and basically because Leonardo is the sporting director for PSG, he basically called in a favor and said, "Can you sign Donnarumma, please?" And that's what happened. That's the nature of the transfer. Pochettino didn't want him. And so as a result, Donnarumma is now bench goalkeeper. Probably the best bench goalkeeper there is because Pochettino absolutely loves Navas.
Yeah.
Which I feel sorry for Navas because the exact same thing happened with him in Real Madrid, where Courtois came in and Navas did nothing wrong. He just wasn't a flashy name.
Yeah. So, most successful goalkeeper in Champions League history, I think.
Mm-hmm. So I think just with in terms of the nature around the transfer, unless somewhere in the contract says that he's going to play the cup games, Navas seems to be the better pick.
Yeah, I'd say clear. Once it becomes really apparent, yes, stick him in on a wild card. Go for it if that's what you want to do. Navas might be an all right pick. I haven't even written Navas down, but Navas is fairly cheap, isn't he? For
5 million.
5 million?
Same price as New.
Let's jump on to Leipzig. Last team. So Leipzig, again, sporadic. They lost their first game 1-0. They won the second game 4-0. I think everyone saw the highlights. The first 3 goals were like 3 of the greatest goals you're likely to see this season. And then even the penalty was smashed in, the 4th goal. And then they got beat 1-0 last weekend. Angelino's injured, so we don't have any heroics from him. My lovely 18-pointer from last year. Do you have Angelino in first game of the season?
Yeah.
Helped us out immensely last year. So they are now a back four last year. So this is what's really difficult with Leipzig. We had an understanding of how they played, but with a change of managers, it was going to be a little bit more confusing in terms of just what style of football do they want to play. The grateful thing is the new coach is the complete antithesis to the previous one and is playing a solid formation. It's 4-2-3-1. He's not messing around. So previously they had 3-5-2s overlapping centre backs, bombing on wing backs. They've had 4-3-3s, diamonds, anything you could possibly imagine. Nagelsmann went with it. So Galaxy is the goalkeeper. As you probably saw against England, you had a bit of a shocker. He's not been very good recently. I think his time may have been in gone, to be honest. Right back, first game was Mukiele. He hasn't played since. Klosterman has been playing the last 2 games. Orban and Simikan are the 2 centre-backs. They're nailed. If you want one of them, head for it. It's fine. Angelino is the first choice left-back, injured. We'll go with this name. Gvardiol came in to replace him at left-back. The 2 holders, Tyler Adams has played every game. Kampf played the first, then Hadara came in and played the next 2. Then who we got? So the 3 in behind the forward, Hadara played in that position for the first game before being dropped back, and he was replaced by our fan favourite, Dominic Szoboszlai, who has 2 goals in that 4-0 win. Emile Forsberg, Swedish legend, he's played all 3 games behind the forward in the central position. He has 1 goal, no longer on penalties, which I think definitely takes away some of his appeal. And Nkunku is playing on the left. He's played all 3 games. New signing Silva, who was second top goal scorer in the Bundesliga last year, I think, behind Lewandowski, scored more goals in the Bundesliga than Haaland. Not across all competitions, though Haaland did get more. Silva has 1 penalty goal and an assist. Again, everything came in that 4-0 win because they've not scored in any of the games. So I think the new manager has probably done us a favour in terms of just avoid this lot, because if it was any other year, I'd be very, very tempted. Mm-hmm. And I've had a couple of these in my... I had a choice, and I made the wrong choice, Aaron, for my Gaffer League. It was to double up on Wolfsburg or to double up on Leipzig, and I doubled up on Leipzig. At the last minute, I went in Nkunku and Angelino, and they both did nothing. And the Wolfsburg boys have done absolutely class. So, c'est la vie. Do you have any thoughts on these?
I think if Leipzig were in any other group, I probably would have put in Silva as the 3rd striker because of how prolific he was. But yeah, not really, just due to price points in the group that they're in. So, like kind of what you said there, avoid maybe Szoboszlai, but that's it.
I'm going to have a little look. It's just one of the prices here. Like I say, if you do have Angelino in, I would recommend taking him out. Silva, 9 million. Scores a lot of goals. Not really hit the ground running so far. Do you think he's an avoid? Do you think the forward spots are too precious for 9 million? And then obviously you've got the likes of Depay up there at 8.5. Is that? Do you think he's been priced out of it?
Yeah, I would say if he was at 8 million, probably you would get him in like over the same kind of price as Woghorst. I think probably would have went him to be able to get a premium midfielder.
Yeah. Simikan, 4.5 million is the starting the centre back. So if you are looking for a Leipzig defender, I'll be honest, I don't know why you would in this group. There are so many 4.5 million defenders you can have. I think you're a lunatic if you want Simikan. But if you are a Leipzig fan or anything like that, then he is 4.5 million and you want that representation. Sobo at 7 will forever be interesting because whether the game's easy or difficult, I kind of don't think it matters. It's how he's feeling on the day. From what I've seen of him play, like I've seen him play against garbage and he's been not very good. And I've seen him when he played against Bayern Munich, he was brilliant. He tore them apart at times.
Yeah.
And obviously I've seen him play well against bad teams and I've seen him play badly against good teams. I think it's trying to capitalize on his feelings. Is he feeling up to it in the moment, in those moments? Just as an update, I know this isn't for this group, but Lucas and Mechas just scored for Wolfsburg. So I know that Cameron is hot on this kid. He's playing right wing in a 4-2-3-1. So that's just something for people to know just while we are on here. And I'm just going to have a quick look at some more Leipzig players. It's just I want to see the left back, this Gvardiol, see if he's
4.5.
4.5. There you go. So it's too much. I just think it's too much. If he was 4, then yeah, I think that would be fine as an Angelino replacement until he comes back. We don't know how long Angelino was out for, but probably just avoid Leipzig, which is a shame because last year we were, even though they were in PSG's group, Man United, Istanbul, Besiktas here. I mean, yeah, that was an easy one to target. We still felt that they had a chance, and this year, I don't think they've got a chance at all. I think they'll actually be fortunate to finish Europa League, and it all depends on their battles with Brugge. To be honest, I think that's where both teams need to go out all guns blazing and try and hammer each other, because those points are going to be so important. How do you think the group's going to finish?
I think it'll be Man City top.
Ooh,
Paris Saint-Germain second. I do think that Leipzig will finish third and Bruges last.
Well, I'm going Bruges first. Come on, you Bruges. No, I'm not going Bruges first. I'm going to go PSG first. And I'm going to go Man City second. And even though I think Leipzig will finish third, I'm going Bruges third, up the Bruges. And I'll have Leipzig finishing last on goal difference. I'm going to go goal difference for Leipzig. I think they'll get battered off Man City and PSG because I think they'll try and go for it. Whereas I think Bruges will be a little bit more sensible. I think they'll try and go for it and get steamrolled. We've obviously discussed just again, getting scores come through here. Borussia Dortmund, 9 minutes in, already 1-0 down against Leverkusen. So have one of their defenders or goalkeeper at your peril. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Aaron, that's it for this podcast. We've got 2 more left to record, so we'll have them out to you as quickly as possible. Thanks so much, as ever, for jumping on. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell so you don't miss any more of our previews. If you haven't seen our other ones, please jump back and watch them. We are on Twitter at UCL Fantasy Pod, and we are working this year with at All About FPL, so give them a follow as well. And we will see you next time for the penultimate group preview. We'll see you then. Bye now.